Welcome to the channel. So, fitting air conditioning, bad idea, most people say. Too much power, too much weight. But there's one thing that van lifers in the United States of America, good old US of A, have found, and they're calling it the holy grail of air conditioners. So I thought I'd buy one from China, fit it, and to see if it can live up to the hype. What I've got here is the Treeligo 12 volt mini split air conditioning unit. So it's called a mini split because it has this thing that looks like a Ghostbusters backpack, and it has this thing which goes somewhere else, and in my case on the inside of the door. So this is going to go on the outside, this is going to go on the inside, pipes in between, jobs are good on. It comes with the 2 units, the pipes, the fittings, the remote, a few other bits and bobs. And then I've got a few extra things here that I'm going to install to make sure that it doesn't ruin my battery bank. So I'm just going to go through the steps, install it myself and see how it goes, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of how much it costs, what power it takes, and a few other bits too. The very first thing you need to do is to take the shell off of the outdoor unit itself, mark up where you're going to mount it. So in my case, I've had this bracket made. You can see the holes on the back where I marked up on the frame, and I've drilled that out to accept some M8 riv nuts. These come in the pack. Same principle really if you're going to put it on your door. So mark it up on there first and then drill out the holes for the riv nuts to go in, and then to fit those you're going to use a riv nut tool. Alright, so this is a rivet nut tool, manual one of my favourite tools. So you basically get the correct awl on there, which is M8 for this one. They do give you riv nuts with it. They look alright. I think a riv nut is basically a riv nut, so no problem there. And then you pop it in, and then you pop it in the hole, pull it down. I always like to give it a turn or two more, and then take it out. And then what you'll end up with is basically a captive fitter that you can pop your M8 bolt through. 5 more to go. And we'll be ready to mount it. It also comes with these little spacers, so you don't basically smash up the thing, and make sure that you've got the right amount of pressure on there. So you need to just basically pop the spacer in the little rubber grommet, and then pop it through from the back in the holes that you've marked up. Which you've got a choice really, so you can go top, bottom, middle, whatever you want to do, whatever will work for your install. I've gone for 3 on the top, 2 on the bottom. I've kept 1 actually, so it's not a captive nut. So yeah, just pop these in, push them through, mount it up. The next step is to add the indoor unit, so the condenser. In my van, I've got a dedicated box, so this is likely going to go on the piece of wood that comes with your kit. I'm having to offset mine here, taking into account that I've got to fit the pipes in a minute. The screws that come with it are rubbish, absolute junk, so just use your own hardware, I would. I think it would be better quality. And that would be easier if you had a mate. The next bit is to run the cables, which you can see I've done here, and the pipes. Now the pipes are really long. Now I have managed to conceal them in my box and keep it looking quite neat, but they're really long, so you need to bear that in mind. Second thing to bear in mind, the piece of hose that comes with it is terrible for the drain, so get a piece like this. I had a bit in the garage, and you need a bit more room than you think doing the next step, which was to fit the pressure release valve. So I've had to move everything over a little bit, but it was a little bit of a jump when I took it out. There was a big puff, which I didn't catch on camera, but doing it up is just a case of basically making sure the bungs are out of the condenser unit itself, pop in the pressure release valve, do up 2 Allen key bolts, put the hose connections in, make sure they're nice and clean. They should have a bit of oil around them. Put in another Allen key bolt, tighten it up, and this should be airtight now. So next stage is to run power, which is a bit of a contentious one. So the unit itself is set to turn itself off at 11.9 volts, which is about 60% depth of discharge on an AGM battery. I want it to shut off at about 1205 volts, which is about 50% depth of discharge, leaving me an extra 10% for my fridge and everything should the worst happen. I'm actually hoping that I'll be running this during the day when the sun is out, and it should be okay, but you know, the proof will be in the pudding with that. So this is a battery protect, smart battery protect by Victron. It's smart because it monitors everything that's going on. I can program it via Bluetooth. I can set it to go off at 12.05 volts, which is what I want to set it at. And it's just gonna make sure we've got an extra bit of juice in the battery bank beyond what the air conditioner could use. After hooking up the battery protect, I set about adding the refrigerant to the air conditioning unit. The first stage in all of this is to actually vacuum out the system. And to be able to do that, you will need to have a vacuum pump and a set of gauges. So I got a set from Amazon, managed to get them from their warehouse. The first thing I did was set up the gauges, made sure that they were closed, both on the service side and on the gauge side, and added them to the unit itself. And then I attached it to the pump, made sure there was a good seal. You only need to do it finger tight. And then I ran the vacuum pump for about 25 minutes. You can see here that I got like minus 30 PSI on here. I let that sit then for a good while to make sure that the pressure didn't go back up, and it was time to add the gas. So what you do then is you close up both service ports, both ports on the gauge itself, and then you're going to add this yellow line to the can. And the can comes with an adapter for R134A, which is the refrigerant that you need to put in this. You screw it on, and effectively at that point you pierce it down using the adapter itself, and then that line will be full of refrigerant. You need to make sure that you purge the air out of that line. So I put a whole can in of that, and had semi-good pressure. At that point you just close everything up so the system's sealed, and you can undo and take the can off, replace with a second can, and you're basically trying to aim for around 600 grams. But I wanted to do it by pressure, and it said at around 35 PSI on the low side and between 120 and 180 on the high pressure side. And at this point I opened up just the low side and I turned the unit on as well, and let that run for about 25 minutes whilst it poured the rest of that refrigerant in, and I got the pressures that I needed. It's a few days later now, and I'm inside, and you can see that I've had a haircut and I'm quite red, because actually today, where we live in the UK, it is actually a summer's day. So it's about 25 degrees here at the moment. I've got various thermometers around the vans. I've got some on the roof that's showing 28, underneath is showing 22.5. The ones in here are showing 29 now actually. So what we're going to do is to turn the unit on and just to see what power it pulls today, and how it's going to pull it down without having any of the curtains down, any other insulation on, just to see what it can do. So it comes with this Diddy Koi little remote, and you can see the unit pokes through the hole in the back here into our bedroom, and I've angled the vent so it will come into here. The main reason we want it is to cool down this back half of the bus, but we're hoping that it's going to aid cooling in here as well. So yeah, on the remote you've got different modes, temperature up and down as you'd expect to see, and speed up and down. So let's start off with, well, at the moment we're showing 100% charge. We're pulling 406 watts of solar because we've got 960 watts on the roof. We're showing at around 80 watts that I'm pulling from everything around the van, not using this. Let's switch it on. Oh, it's instantly cooling. It's lush. On startup, it does say that it could pull up to 800 watts. I'm not seeing that here. We're around 650, 660 if you subtract the other bits that we've got on here. So pulling down 722 watts at the moment on startup, combined with everything else in the van. And the solar's just kicked up a notch because we're in a bit of shade today, 626. So we'll leave that running. We've got 29 degrees showing up there. On the broad link, we're showing 31.3 in this living area. And then up here, I've got a Ruby tag linked through to my VRM, which is showing 29.3. So we'll see what it pulls. I want to get one in the bedroom actually. We'll do a second test, I think, when we're in some proper hot climes in a couple of weeks' time. But let's see what that does. I'm going to leave it running for an hour. I mean, stood here, it's glorious. And it's not that loud, I don't think. Really, seeing as that, I think, is on full blast. Yeah, that's full blast, all right. Oh yeah, it feels fresh here. Let's come back in a minute and see what it's up to. So I had it on for an hour. The solar's done such a good job that it only consumed like 1.5 amps over that hour because the solar's pulling down so much. And the temperature dropped around 2.5 degrees, but it will be much better because in there I haven't got a thermostat, and that's where we need to test it. And second of all, I noticed that it wasn't draining freely. So on the unit itself, it's got 2 drain points, one on the left and one on the right. It's at the back of the unit. Because it's mounted on the door tilts forwards like this. So the water was all pooling there. So what I've done is I've had the doors open and shut all afternoon. The unit's been on all afternoon. And I've put spacers in behind, and I've actually put the unit ever so slightly on the tilt. So the water's now draining away and we can give it a proper test. So I'm going to shut down for today, wait for another hot day, and we'll see how much power we're actually using and what we can do. But it's lovely, like stood just here and up to about halfway. It's so ever so cool. The rest of the bus is cooler than it is outside as well. So in that 1 hour test, we saw it drop around 2.5, 3 degrees across all of the thermostats that are right out here. Whilst the temperature of the outside was getting warmer and warmer. So we've got to around 30 degrees here today. So yeah, so far so good. I just need a little bit of fettling, and that drain hose, that's worth considering when you're doing your install. It is now another hot day, so it's 26 degrees in here now. It's not quite so hot outside, but obviously it's a bit like a greenhouse. So we'll do another hour-long test. So I'm going to put it on strong mode. And this should be useful because I'm about to make the bed as well. And we'll see what it can do in that time. Just chilling in here. It's been going for about 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's definitely noticeable. I think you can notice it throughout the whole van. But it's a lot cooler in the bedroom than like by the driver's seat.
Yeah.
But it's still noticeable difference.
Yeah. The Victron turbo is just showing at around 560, 570 watts. So if you subtract off the 80 that we use without this being on, not bad really, around 500 watts. It's on full blast at the moment. And it's just kicked down, so as we're talking. But that's because I think in here, the thermostat is saying it's cool enough. But yeah, you do find it cycles a little bit. Give it another 40 minutes and then we'll see where we're at and see what we've used and have a look at how much other power the other modes use. Yeah, so far so good, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll make a difference. Well, we'll see once we're in France, won't we?
Yeah. No, don't adjust your television sets or mobile device, whatever you're watching on. I recorded a bunch of video and the sound didn't record, but thankfully I wasn't a total wally and I do have the results for that from yesterday. So we're away now on the bus. So let's have a look. The temperature wise, we saw a drop from around 80 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. In the UK, that's 26.6 to 21 degrees. over that time period, which I thought was pretty good. And that was in the living areas around here. I do need to test in the bedroom to see how we're going there, maybe for a future video. For that, we used 35.5 amp hours of power over that period, because the solar was dissipating because we're going into the evening. So based on our usable 50% of our 680 amp hour battery bank, that will get around about 9.5 hours of use. I think practically we wouldn't get that much and we wouldn't push it that hard, but we'll give it a test and we'll see really how that works, I think, as the weeks go on. In sleep mode, it cuts right down in power, so we'll have a quick look at that now. But before we get into that, a little bit on the unit itself. So it cost us $510 US, directly from Treeligo themselves. Contacted them via their website and was reached out to weirdly via WhatsApp, and then paid via PayPal to try and keep it all as safe as possible. It did arrive fine, as they said it would, in 2 boxes, and we were ready to install it. You can get it from like the likes of Amazon or eBay as well. I'll leave all the links down below in the comments, but yeah, directly from Treeligo, it was pretty reasonably priced, I think. Obviously with the equipment that you need to install it, that adds to the price a little bit. You know, as a contender, you could just take it down to your automotive garage, because it uses R134A gas. They'll be able to do it for you. We actually got a quote for about 80 quid, but they couldn't get us in for a while, so I decided to do it myself, and it was pretty straightforward to do. And you know, I like that thing anyway. But yeah, onto the power. On the remote, as I mentioned before, you've got strong, eco and sleep mode. So in eco mode, you pull around about 100 watts, I would say, depending on how hot it is in here. Again, we'll do a long-term test, but it's much lower. On sleep mode, it's even lower still. It's around sort of 60 watts at 12 volts, which again is not bad at all. And you still really do feel the chill of it. That basically is just a glorified fan though. You're just pulling in the air that's around you. It still feels cold because the fan is quite strong. But there we are. So yeah, we're going to give it a longer term test over the next few weeks. If you've got any questions or pointers or thoughts on how we can improve our install, please do put them down below in the comments, and then if we get lots, we'll combine them together into another video. If not, I'll answer them down below if I can. You can watch more of our videos up here, and we're now on the road, so we'll see you real soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Bye.